pro-war propaganda. Without pro-war propaganda, any host of wars throughout history would never have been able to be pulled off. We can certainly start with Goebbels and Nazis and how that propaganda led up to World War II. And that's one thing, because that's them, right? That was somebody that's obviously evil and wicked. So it's easy for us to point a finger to them. And we always use that term, pro-war propaganda. But when we're talking about ourselves, well, then it's free and fair press. But is it? And especially when it comes to the military and when it comes to wars, what we have been doing for a long time cannot be categorized any other way, if we're being honest, except for pro-war propaganda expressly designed to twist facts, take things out of context, or just make them up out of whole cloth and present them as true and paint it as one tapestry of one message that's designed to show you why we must go to war, why we must use military force to compel somebody to do whatever it is we want to do. Most of it is a lie. And you, the American public, primarily through mainstream media, are being manipulated intentionally. And now it's getting so common that they almost don't even hardly doctor it up anymore. They have such contempt for the American people that they literally, in some cases, don't even try. They put the thinnest of veneer over it and just tell you it's right. That's the new thing that makes it even easier. I'm going to show you today why this is so pernicious. And I'm going to show you 3 specific samples here because they just happened in the last few days, one of which was today, just hours ago. And this is how you're being manipulated. Now, you're never going to see the context that I'm going to provide you here if all you do is watch Fox News. That's why I'm showing you this. Now, you see, I've been on Fox News a lot myself, and there's lots of good people on Fox. There's lots of good anchors, a lot of other people that will tell the truth. But there are those. I don't know what their motivations are. I don't know what the people in charge of Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or Newsmax, any of these people. I don't know what their agenda is. I don't know what their methods are. That's beyond my scope. I can't figure that out. But what I can tell you is in specific instances like the 3 I'm about to show you here, they are categorically pro-war propaganda designed to lie to you, to deceive you, to make you believe something that isn't true for the benefit of somebody else. Whether it's rich people, people in the industrial complex, just the wealthy elite, I don't even know. It's unclear who's actually behind this, but what I can tell you with crystal clarity is that you're being lied to. We're going to talk first about Larry Kudlow. And he is a Fox Business News person. He used to be I think he was the economics director, the director of the Economics Council under the first Trump administration, went to work for Fox. He works on Fox Business News, been doing that for a long time. In the past, I was even on his show back when he was actually talking about the reality. But now in this second Trump term, he has turned into an absolute pro-war propagandist. And I'm going to show you 3 examples in just the last few days. We're going to start off with his rendering of Venezuela. Here's what he says about Venezuela and how it's not what it looks like, because what it looks like is it's just about oil, that we're going to steal the oil. No, he says it's about a lot more than that.
This whole story is about much more than just oil. You know, oil is going to take care of itself. It's really, in my view, about kicking Russia and China out of our hemisphere. It's about choking off Cuba once and for all. And it's even about the potential downfall of the Iranian mullahs as the protests in Tehran intensify. Let me say this again. Mr. Trump is bending the arc of history toward freedom.
There is maybe nothing in there that's true. The only thing that has some element of truth is his first comment, where he says this is not only about oil. He says it's not primarily about oil. It is. It may even be exclusively about oil, 90%. I don't know what the other 10% is. None of it's what he just said there, though. And I'm going to take bit by bit of that. He said this is about kicking Russia and China out of our hemisphere. Okay, upon what basis? Do you own the planet? Did somebody, while I was, I don't know, driving to the store yesterday, did I miss it? Was there an announcement that the United States is now in command and control of half of the globe, the entire hemisphere? We own it. And so now we get to decide who can live in it and who cannot, who can do business in it and who cannot. And we'll just say something about, the Monroe Doctrine or the Dunroe Doctrine, as they have perverted it since that time. But it doesn't matter what name you want to put on it. You don't have it. You cannot tell Russia and China that they cannot exist in our hemisphere, that they cannot do business in our hemisphere, that they cannot fly international airspace, that they cannot go through the global commons on the seas. You can't do that. Whether you want to or not is not the point. You can't. You can say it and you can try to start taking actions, but listen to me. There will be consequences. There will be a reaction to your actions. The days where we can just rule the world and tell everybody what they're going to do, and then they just have to suck it down because they don't have the power, are over. This is not 1991 anymore, folks. And we've been seeing this play out in so many different ways and in just painful, graphic ways. And they keep getting worse, and we keep not learning the lessons. We want to pretend for 20 long years that we're winning in Afghanistan. And I started telling people as early as 2009, publicly and emphatically in writing, we were losing, and if we didn't change our ways, we would lose the war. We did. And all the things that I wrote there doesn't require any kind of tremendous insight. I had 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. I studied it a lot, talked to people. It's not hard to figure out, but we were lying to ourselves, and our leaders were lying to you. And the media was perpetuating that lie by continuing to just put out there what they said. But we saw proof positive that the Taliban that we kicked out in roughly March of 2002 is in power now. After we got kicked out of the country in February 2021, they were back in power, even stronger than they were before. By any definition, we lost. We were lying all the time. We kept saying it's getting better, it's getting better. It never was. We just kept the facade covered over with lies and the pro-war propaganda. And we paid a very bloody price. Thousands of American troops were killed. Tens of thousands were wounded. Hundreds of thousands suffered PTSD and traumatic brain injuries over that period of time. Even more in Iraq. Same situation over there. But that's what pro-war propaganda did. And now then we're trying to do it all over again. And now he's telling China and Russia, you can't go in there. Well, they can go in there. And are you going to really try and make the case that China and Russia cannot do business in this half of the earth while we do business everywhere around the globe? While we send freedom of navigation operations into the Taiwan Straits and poking a finger in China's face and saying, nobody tells us who can go in these waters. These are international waters. Freedom of navigation in your backyard, in your front yard in that case. And Russia, we're going to tell you, you can't say who's going to be in our military alliance. You can't say if we're going to move an alliance up to your border and put somebody in and threaten your national security. You don't have a say in that. We're a defensive alliance. Then we said it, so that makes it true. So it doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter what you've been warning about for years. You can't tell us what we can and can't do on your border. But we can tell you what you can do in our hemisphere. We're going to kick you out. And he just says it like it's a matter of fact, like it's something he's proud of, like it's something he has power over. It's something that's like a high and moral thing, and it's the exact opposite. It's absurd. It's not going to happen, and it's a perversion of everything we've ever claimed to believe in. That's what makes me so mad about all this, is that all the values that I grew up with, that I went and served in the military to defend, not just our people, but our way of life, because our way of life was at least ostensibly a higher way than we called others to rise up to that level with laws that follow the rule of law, follow the international rules-based orders, justice, freedom, genuine freedom. And instead, he turns that up on its ear, and now it's all about power. And then he says, this is also about choking off Cuba. Are you kidding me? Cuba is this tiny little island that can barely keep the lights on, can barely keep its people fed. Why do you want to crush them? What is it about Cuba that you're so afraid of that you relish this opportunity to do something to Venezuela that's going to choke off the Cuba? What is your problem, man? What is wrong with you people who want to destroy this tiny little country? It's a threat to no one. It's what a classic bully does to somebody who's powerless to do anything. In other environments, we condemn people like that. Now with pride, Some of our leaders are doing it, and you see on national television, you're told and explained and expected to think that's a good thing. It's not. Then he says it's actually the downfall of the mullahs. How does that even, they're not even in his hemisphere. How do you turn in seizing Venezuela by force against international law, against the U.S. Constitution, against any kind of morality, just taking the leader of another country because you declared that they were unlawfully elected? That's for the people of that country to decide, not you. I'm not saying he was or he wasn't. It's not my affair. It's not your affair. But to say that we're going to do something that's clearly illegal and we would never tolerate in our country. But remember, Trump himself said the 2020 election was stolen, right? That's what he claims. Now, by this standard, someone else could come in and say, well, because Joe Biden wasn't legally elected, we're going to seize him and take him out of power. And then we're going to do business with whoever's left and see if we can get something done that way. I mean, do you realize that? Now, you may say, well, who's got the power to do that? Exactly. That's the point exactly. There's no governance and rule of law. There's no rules-based order. There's just the rule of the jungle. And you're saying we're the lion. And today we are. Because that's true. Who's going to come and tell us that? Who's going to come and take out our president, Joe Biden in that case, and install somebody else? But that's what we did there. We didn't leave it up to the people. That's a mess that we have to figure out. And that's exactly how we dealt with it. But we just said, no, we're powerful enough that we don't care about the rules. We're going to take that. And then somehow you're going to pervert that and say that has something to do with Iran. That is bizarre. There's no connection whatsoever. And yet there he is saying it like it's a positive thing, like it's a true thing. There's no truth to it whatsoever. And yet there he said it. No one challenged him on that. We're challenging him on that. And then the worst part of all in that first clip, the arc of freedom. That's the most perverse thing that he said in that whole section right there. There's no freedom involved in that whatsoever. Venezuela doesn't have any freedom. Cuba doesn't have any freedom. Iran doesn't have any freedom. None of these people in any of the stuff, China, Russia, they don't have any freedoms. Only what we decide they can do based on our power. There's no arc of freedom in there. That's the most perverted thing you can say. Call that out. Let's at least be honest about it. At least be honest and put off this absurd facade and acknowledge what you're doing, which is all about power. All right, that's Venezuela. Now let's look at the next one here. And the second one is over this issue of Greenland. So we had something to say on that too. And here is this is I think, let's see, this is the 19th. That was just yesterday. Here's what he said yesterday about Greenland.
All right, so look, President Trump is spot on right to take over Greenland. That's the subject of the rift. That's my view. NATO has been telling Denmark for 20 years that you have to get the Russian threat away from Greenland. Unfortunately, Denmark has been unable to do anything about it. Now is time, and it will be done. That's President Donald J. Trump writing on Truth Social, and he is spot on, dead right. Denmark and NATO have had years and years and years and decades to deal with the growing threats from China and Russia surrounding Greenland. But they've done nothing about it.
They've done nothing about it. Okay. What in the hell are you talking about on almost anything that you said right there? I mean, let's just look at a few of them. Spot on agree. Now, this just sounds like he's just literally trying to just kiss the boots, lick the boots of President Trump, just trying to make him happy by repeating his statements, by putting his Truth Social on there and saying he's spot on. He's 100% right. You're just licking his boots and just trying to make him like you. I mean, that's primarily what he's doing right there. But then repeating his claim that Denmark is unable to take care of the Russian threat for decades and decades, he says. What threat? What are you talking about? The Soviets, the Russians haven't even been associated with Greenland. They had no interest in it. The word doesn't even exist or hasn't even cropped up in any of their statements. Nobody's been pointing a finger from Moscow and going, man, look at Greenland over there. Boy, I'd like to go get some of that action. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't exist at all. Why would they? They have a huge Arctic presence on their own borders. They don't need anything else. There's no logic or sense whatsoever that Russia is going to want to come and get Greenland, much less that there's been a threat that Denmark hasn't been able to stop. there is an Article 5 protection for Greenland. It's been there since I don't remember exactly when it started, but ever since Denmark's been in there, it's been part of the NATO. It's had Article 5 structures, just like every other country in NATO, part of the collective security deal, that even weak countries can be part of the big. And if anybody tries to do anything to them, there's an Article 5 there. So Greenland is protected like it always has been. And of course, as I think I've been telling you many times, there are agreements existing right now to where we could expand our military presence on Greenland should we want to, substantially if we want to. There's no need to take it over whatsoever. But quit lying and saying that there is a threat from Russia that for decades these guys haven't been able to take care of. There has been no threat at all. Zero from Russia on Greenland. It doesn't exist. It's 100% made up, fabricated, and yet they're saying it to you like it's a fact, deceiving you to make you believe that they're coming to get you. And that's just right up, practically right down the border. One of the commentators I showed you the other day said, everybody on America's East Coast should be worried about this. That is a lie. That is complete fabrication designed to deceive you, to make you give justification and support to something that is abjectly unsupportable. That is an abject lie and a foolish thing on our part. It could cost us a great deal, not just financially, but in ripping apart otherwise security that we might need someday. Collective security is something that has helped us, from which we also have benefited and may benefit in the future if we don't destroy it at our own hands. That's kind of where some of this could go. And then he's talking about, again, decades and decades that this is going to go. And he says, but now, as Trump put in that Truth Social that he mentioned there, he said, but now it will be done. Okay, what is it? Because in the context, it said that the Danes had done nothing to take care of the Russian threat, and now it will be done. What do you mean? Are you going to do something to Russia? Or is it going to be that you're saying this threat that they allegedly did nothing to solve, we're going to solve it, except that it doesn't exist? So then what are you going to come in and say, okay, now we've solved it? You don't see any threat there now because there never was. You're just looking for something to justify the unjustifiable. And that's what President Trump is doing. And that's what Larry Kudlow is doing to support, and a bunch of other people as well. So that's two. Now we're going to look at the third one here, and that is on Iran. And again, we go to Larry Kudlow. This time he's going to be channeling Jack Keane. Let's see. Yes, this one right here. And you see, let's see, when is this? This is from today. This is 2:17 p.m. This is today. And he says, here's Jack Keane on America's path forward with Iran. I am expecting military action for sure. Now, this should be something of the gravest concern. And before we go and literally attack another country, you are talking about going to war against Iran, flat out in any way, shape, or form. Listen to what he says here. Listen to what Larry Kudlow puts on his show so that he hears Jack Keane saying, watch this.
No, I am expecting military action for sure.
Okay.
And then there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're bringing these resources to bear, and it's likely because we had to expand the target set. And why are we expanding it? Because we had to consider, what is Iran going to do in retaliation? Our bases are vulnerable. What are they going to do about Israel? They're going to attack Israel? Likely. And they're vulnerable. And what are we going to do about their ballistic missiles? Are we going to take them down before they fire them at our bases and also at Israel? Likely. Are we going to kill leaders? Certainly. Our IRGC members, the people that are oppressing the people? Absolutely. So I think the target set is expanded. Resources are being brought in to deal with an expanded target set, which is what we do. That should chill everybody. That whole target list he said there. Listen, I don't care what you want to say about the 1973 War Powers Act or the U.S. Constitution. There is no interpretation of those two documents. And we'll just limit ourselves to the Constitution, Article 1 and Article 2. I believe it's Article 1, Section 8, and Article 2, Section 2 are the ones that have to do with the duties of the Commander-in-Chief and the duties for national security of Congress, Article 1 and Article 2. They are categorical that only the Congress can declare war
that only Congress can send the armed forces into action, and that the commander-in-chief can only exercise that authority after they have been called into power, into presence, into conflict. Black and white. The 1973 War Powers Act just quantifies it even further, but it says the same thing. There is no scenario with what Jack Keane just says there, if he's right, and all the evidence suggests that he is, that you're talking about literally you're going to go in and destroy an expanded target list to kill their political leaders, to kill their military leaders, to attack their military installations. Folks, that is a war. By definition, that is war. And now that you're trying to tell me that we don't need to worry about the Constitution, we don't need to worry about the Congress, we don't need to worry about declaring anything, we don't need to get an AUMF, a statutory authorization, we don't need to do anything. President Trump is an imperial leader, and he can decide on his own to do this, and everybody seems to be fine with it. And then here's Larry Kudlow putting him on the show to tell you this is something that we should support. This is good stuff. This is something to brag about. Before your very eyes, friends, the Constitution has been shred. The rule of law has been shred. The balance of powers that the Constitution was set up, our form of government, has been shred. Trump listens to no one. He does nothing anybody says except himself. He is his own morality by his own mouth. And I'm promising you, this will come to a bad end. If you think that we can forever do everything we want to everybody, to include nuclear superpowers, Russia and China, to kicking them out of our hemisphere, and there will be no blowback anywhere else, you are deeply deluded. This is why it is important to be a nation governed by the rule of law. If you get rid of them, you become an outlaw that you will now then cause others around the world to rise up. They always do. We have historically hated those kinds of people, and we rose up against them and we condemned them. And now we're bragging about being one of them. But I did this today because it's important for you to not just to understand what's happening, but understand what's going on to make you believe something that's untrue, to deceive you into supporting something that goes against our culture, goes against our morality, and it goes against our own laws, and it goes against our own interest. This is something that's really important, and it's time for all of us to finally stand up and say, enough is enough. I've done it here. I ask you to send this to whoever you want to. Put this out there. Do your social media. Protest anything. Make your voice heard while we still can. Because the day will come when we won't get a chance to, and the cost and the flames could start to burn and consume everything. That's the concern that I have right now, folks. This is really serious stuff here. Appreciate you guys being with us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon on the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.